down to Berlin, Germany, as we prepare to wrap up the first week of the 2024 Spring Split. It's Fnatic, it's G2 and Vitality who all find themselves in prime position to sweep the weekend. But for Giant X, Rogue and Team BDS, a shaky start sees them hoping to pick up their very first win. My name is Sjokz and I am joined here at the desk, while we're standing for now. But you know the drill, Guldborg and Laure to kick off this very last day. How has the weekend been for you two?
Amazing.
Yeah?
Glad to have the players back. Really exciting. A lot of change as well. So yeah, excited about today.
Yeah.
I think there's been a lot of uncertainties that have happened. I mean, you were just noting down who's really making a run here for the 3-0 and who's talking about the 0-3. Some of them I did expect, some of them I didn't.
So what about the positives then? Let's start with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people was expecting to see Fnatic and G2 at the top, especially Fnatic with their easy schedule in the beginning. But I think Vitality coming in with a 2-0 already, maybe going for 3-0 today, did not expect that one coming.
And on that note, we appreciated the fact that G2 was coming back with the same roster at the beginning of the year. Fnatic is clicking, they stick to the same player, and Vitality as well. So honestly, I appreciate coherence in building projects and the fact that the top 3 teams we have right now are sticking with the same player and building for longevity.
That's a great point, and hopefully other teams are watching and saying, okay, yes, Vitality, great players, didn't go where they wanted to exactly in those playoffs in winter, but a great foundation. I love that. On the other side of the coin, though, what are we looking at for teams that have disappointed us, sadly, the most so far?
Yeah, I don't know. I think for Rogue specifically, let's start off with them there. I think I'm really looking at a team that needs to come together, not just from the individuals that at times seem slow, but all of them coming together as a team. Because I've still seen good individual stuff from them. I haven't seen any good team play from them just yet.
We have Heretics, we'll see what's happening with them, but I want to look at GX because when I look at this team right now, being completely honest, the 2 first games we saw from them, I felt like I was watching solo queue. I don't see a connection between the players, and it feels like they're starting lower than what they had in winter. So are things catching up on them, or did they actually get it worse? I think today is going to be a good test for them to see this, but it doesn't look good for them.
No, that is a great question indeed. Now, we did also ask this question to some of the players before the split started. Who's going to go through 3-0? Who's going to go 0-3? Let's see what they said. Soon.
I can't see my own team. Man, I was gonna say Rogue.
I'm gonna be spicy and say no one.
Easy choice is G2, right?
I feel like on a new patch, usually they know what's good before other teams. I would say G2, yeah.
Well, the thing is, G2 took a huge break, and I just feel like none of the other teams are like, you know, super dominant or super good.
If it's not us, I would probably say maybe Fnatic. It had like a disappointing end to the split, so they might wanna like, you know, come in angry in the start. They're also not playing us, which helps.
I would say Fnatic, because I think they have kinda easy schedule and I think they are a pretty strong team.
I'm gonna say it will be Fnatic. No, that doesn't work because we play Fnatic. It's not gonna be Fnatic, it's gonna be Rogue, and it's gonna be G2.
BDS might go 3-0. They are pretty good in the regular split.
Well, you are playing against BDS, so...
That's fine.
If you want to change your answers...
I don't, it's fine.
0-3. Yeah, probably Rogue maybe?
Rogue.
I would say Rogue.
Next last team was Rogue. Heretics also has a new player that they just subbed in now. So I would say Heretics maybe, or Rogue.
It's for sure Team Heretics, because I think they just made a change, and I didn't think they were even good before.
Heretics, because they play us, and they might have a shaky start. That's just my intuition.
Actually, I think Rogue might go 0-3. They're the second hoodie team. I think they're the worst hoodie team.
Rogue. I love Rogue going 0-3, so they're my favorites for that one.
Oh, the Wamne, the monkey paw curls, because yes, they might go 0-3, but you might as well on Giant X.
That's the thing, right? You can take the Odamno out of Rogue, but apparently you can't take the Rogue out of Odamno, so here we find him.
Oh, I love when players don't know their own schedule. So, and bet against themselves.
Wait, we're playing them.
Yeah, we play them.
Well, it's 3 games in a week, you know, I get it. They have a lot to prepare for. But our very first game will be Rogue versus BDS, 2 teams that might very well go 0-3. I'm kidding, only one of them can. So let's start with BDS. BDS, after the first day, I heard from Guldborg, Laure, that they looked like they were trying things, they were trying to innovate, but maybe it wasn't really coming together.
It wasn't, and what made them strong, I feel, in Winter, their science of team fights, how they were setting up the plays, and how they stayed proactive on the map in the early game to grab an agency in the game. This is what I'm not seeing from them here, GB.
Yeah, I think it's hard for them right now because they're clearly trying to innovate with new champions as well. Specifically, the first draft they came through with, that was Nuke's 4th Taliyah ever. Obviously, Taliyah is super strong on this patch, but the thing that benefit BDS and Winter was it was already their meta, and they just had to continue from where they stopped in 2023. But coming into this, now they have to work on new champion pool, and they have to work on the gameplay aspect. And even when Adam brought out an Olaf, he still got stomp-stood by Photon in that. So hopefully they can start coming back.
Switzerland.
Yay! I mean, they're a Swiss team. So.
It's a Swiss org.
Yeah.
Also on the Rift, it looks like Switzerland now. They don't kill anyone. They don't get any towers. They're just, you know, it's taking it a little bit too literally, perhaps, that they're a Swiss org. Who knows? But we love their videos, though, and we always will. But for the other side, we have Rogue. And Rogue, oh my God, I'm just feeling so uninspired, no pun intended at all, watching them. I don't know what it is.
No, absolutely. I think there has been positives with Rogues. I have a clip I'd love to go through with this as well, because Finn has brought good things to this team. I think his Udyr was really good in the beginning, and I thought his Renekton as well was kind of solid. In this scenario, he's got Wunder frozen on with his jungler being able to come in for a gank, but this is a bigger play where they're going to be able to contest for the Grops in just a little bit. So as we roll out the clip, you can see Finn denying CS, Wunder having to step up just to, well, try and get some of the XP, and when this happens, well, that where Finn starts pushing forward and trades a little bit with him to make sure that he gets priority in the lane. Now, why does he want this priority in the lane? Well, it's quite simple, because if you take a look at the minimap once again, you can actually see that Zoelys is starting to come through. They want to contest this crop spawn. Now they have top lane first move. It's super easy for them to go in here. So it's looking super good in terms of this early game planning they're committing to. You can see it now. Finn first move, Wunder stuck on the tower, can't really do anything. Trimby gets pushed out because Markoon's there first as well. Yanker's still clearing his crocs. And now Rogue thinks, oh, we have this. But actually, as Zoelys walks back, Trimby is still around, and suddenly they will lose out on one croc or one grop. There we go. But the thing is, even with this happening and them losing out that one grub, Zoelys comes in, they find the first blood, and they still get a lead. So they get most of the grubs for themselves. They get first blood on Larssen too. And then moving forward, it's just, this is looking good. It actually looks like they can get the ball rolling. I'm not really sure why it's in slow-mo right now. But going into the second clip here, you can see that, okay, they get another objective. Now we can rinse and repeat the strategy we just saw. Now Zoelys and the rest of Rogue needs to move straight up towards the Grubs, because Finn is in a situation where he can get a slew push and they can move it in. But they start honking around mid too long. You can see Zoelys going to hook the towers, then he's going to stick around mid and still walk back in. It's like they're trying to threaten a mid play, but at the same time, there's an all-in on top side, and this is also a misplay by Finn. You could have said, oh, they could have been up here to backing up and then could have killed Wunder easily and then gone for the play, but that doesn't happen. I'm going to try and see if I can speed this up instead, because it's too slow. Instead, what happens is...
Just like Rogue.
Yeah, actually true. But Finn dies. They don't get the first prior on Grub, as we just saw in the first clip. The mid play happens, but they lose out on their 3v3 again. And now they lose all the Grubs, they lose all their tempo. The top laner who's ahead, no longer ahead. The mid laner that's ahead, no longer ahead. And suddenly they just don't connect. And it's such a shame, because they have clear planning, but no one is stepping up to make the right call. And they need to turn this ship around now, because when today's done, that's 1/3 of their split gone. And if they don't do it, well, that ship will just sink and they're straight up out almost.
And it's been going downhill for a while. You know, we had Malmö, we had that finally crowning achievement. That was in 2022, right? So now looking at Rogue and some of the pieces they have left. But Laure, is it as easy to say, well, you still have that championship winning Larssen, you still have that championship winning comp, or is that a little bit hard knowing that there's pieces around them changing all the time now?
I think it's those pieces that change that maybe affects it, and the fact that sometimes when you have been playing together for too long, it can also not help you. But I feel like bringing Finn back, bringing back this old synergy, because these players know each other. Finn is going to talk about this in a while.
Okay.
But yeah, he knows that the synergy is here and that it's going to take some time. But as we said, 3 weeks flies fast, and they have to make the change now. They don't have time.
Yes, Amal, you're speaking of it, so I want to take a look at that interview to see what Finn said. I know you spoke to him just a minute ago.
Finn, thank you so much for joining me back in the uniform.
Yeah, thank you. It's good to be back.
Yeah, I mean, the start was not ideal for you, but getting your groove back, getting your mood in the team back, how was that for you?
Yeah, it's good to be back.
Yeah.
Rogue is like, it feels very natural to be back, of course. I think scrims have been good and we've been making progress. I think we've had some issues in the early game lately on the stage games, and it's just hard for us to show what we're good at when we're starting the game like down 2k gold at 15 minutes. So I think we really have to fix this
Yeah.
early game, make sure we have a stable plan, and make sure we get it through smoothly. And then I think you guys will stop seeing this boring gameplay. Because when you're 2k down, like, what can you actually do in the game? You don't really have the agency to actually pull the trigger. So I know people are a bit disappointed in Rogue and how we're playing, but I do promise you we have more to show than that.
I love hearing this, and I was not planning on asking you about what the community thinks, but obviously you read what people think about Rogue, maybe boring gameplay. How is that affecting you?
I did promise Drakos that I wasn't gonna be boring
Okay,
when
perfect.
I joined the LEC, and I'm kinda not being true to that promise right now. So I promise
Perfect.
once again we'll do better.
Yeah, well, I'll hold you onto your word then, but I feel like it's maybe easier for you having to do this in a team that you know, a structure that you know, with teammates that you've played with already. Is it something that helps you actually, or is it more difficult being reunited with some teammates that you knew because of the standards that you hold and the expectations that you had?
Well, definitely I'm not the same player as I was when I played with them,
Yeah.
and they're not the same as they were when I played with them last time. So it takes some time getting back into the same. I think with Mark it's been very easy being back with him. Communication is like we picked up where we left off. Larssen as well. It's more like just finding out how we want to play as a core in the team and making sure we're on the right waves. We're like fighting on our timers, not on enemy timers. Because a lot of times we don't fight on our timers, and then we're like, oh, we should have fought there. And now it's the enemy's timer, but we're still trying to fight. So we just give it to them for free. And it's just the most mind-blowingly poor showing of our gameplay that I can imagine. So we just have to get through the nerves on stage, just focus on what's in front of us and play the game properly.
I mean, I can imagine that it might be frustrating, and it's going to be an interesting matchup coming up against BDS today. We were talking about this before the interview. Adam, special play style, a non-conventional way of playing the game. Any words on this matchup?
Yeah, Adam's playstyle is a bit controversial. It is obviously working. He's, I think, one of the most individually shining players in Europe, and as we've seen, he has the ability to take over games, but he's a player that pushes you, that you have to be on your toes when you play against. But I do believe me with Markoon behind me, I think we can punish him and put him in his place.
Well, Finn, I'm sad we don't have you at the desk, but I'm happy you're back where you belong. In the end, hopefully you can show what you want today in the game. Best of luck against
Thank you
BDS.
so much.
And casters, over to you.
Thank you so much, Laure from Historic Moments. Real Laure was on the desk. Time. Crazy concept. Rogue doing things. Also kind of a crazy concept right now, which is a struggle. Because obviously, Finn promised us more, and I want to be clear here. It's easy to take pot shots at Rogue right now, but they are doing some things okay, right? Like, losing slowly is usually a sign that you're holding on to some control of the game. The problem, Dagda, and I want to know if you agree, is there are points eventually where you have to fight. You have to, at some point, pull the trigger, take your destiny into your own hands, and that's the kind of the missing piece of the puzzle I feel like we're waiting to see from Rogue. Yes, obviously it'll be great if they can get leads, but if they are at a deficit, we need to see them pull the trigger, get aggressive, make the plays happen when they're, even if it's a slim margin of opportunity, because otherwise we're going to keep watching them be bled out.
And look, I think there is a very big difference between this Rogue versus last place Rogue. Like, when you look at the game versus Fnatic, right, they are actually trying to terror dive. They've just botched it, all right? So they are trying to make things happen, but it's like, hey, if you can actually look, Zoelys, ease off a little bit. Take a second or two, wait for the rest of the team to catch up. When it comes to, hey, we want to try and take team fights, you know, wait a second, get your control over mid-wave. It's stop skipping steps or stop trying to push the envelope too quickly. And I think that's where it's a much better place to be, because it's like, okay, cool, we are trying to do a thing. Here's just step 3 that we forgot, and then you can actually make that work. And I think for Rogue, as long as you can get that in order, I think you'll be in an okay spot.
Yeah, and it is still a big step up, I think, for their on-stage gameplay that we need to see, right? It's not just one thing. It's one big overarching concept where they seem to be consistently coming up short. So I don't want to pretend that it's going to happen reliably immediately in this game. It's not like one bad draft, one oopsie, like the Fnatic bot side tower dive, right? It's kind of this pattern of behavior that we're hoping to see them rectify with Finn joining the roster. And on the opposite side for BDS, I will say yesterday felt like a little bit of a flash in the pan in the worst possible way, in the sense that Adam kind of just got obliterated in the 1v1 matchup against Photon. And while there were other points of weakness around the map, that's the one that's going to stand out the most for people. And I want to see how he's going to look up against Finn.
100% agree. I mean, the Olaf coming in was not looking so hot against the Rumble, and I think that's where I want to look and say, hey, I like the BDS are trying new things. We got to see the Ari coming out for Nuke. I mean, look, obviously Ari's been around for a while, but it's like they are trying very different styles. We got the Taliyah as well, trying to play that 1-3-1 a little bit more. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them try and bring out something a little bit different here again. It's just finding the success against a team like G2 is difficult, and I think the one against Vitality yesterday is going to sting a bit more.
Absolutely is. And you're going to feel a little bit more like you had the tools, and it's going to be some individual mistakes that kind of cost you. Of course, we've seen 4 AD carry bans already as we jump in partway through Champion Select. Varus was the Zeri, the Smolder, the Senna. Glad to see both Smolder and Senna hit the bench, but interesting to see the Aphelios bumping out. This season, BDS seem to be more and more comfortable putting ice on these kind of hyper carry options, and Rogue committing to what we've seen in the past few days, which has been aggressive, you know, winning lanes, but that hasn't really worked out for them thus far.
Yeah, I wasn't sure because there's basically back at the start of winter, the idea for the bot laners was like, hey, if you see a Kalista, you try and take Aphelios Renata on the opposite side, and you go, hey, we're going to try and fight from range. It's going to make it difficult for a Renata Kalista to come through because that was such a powerful duo in that bot side of the map. But I'm curious to see, well, there's a Renata that's going to be taken for the Kalista, so I thought they were going to take that in that second rotation, but high priority onto the Taliyah means that now you've got an opportunity with Rogue. They're just going to play a little bit of, hey, you come and join us, you try and dive in on top of us, because you kind of need to enable Aphelios in these team fights, and for Renata, that's going to be perfect. So they're taking the Blitzcrank to try and separate that out a little bit, also give them the good matchup, but I do think for an Aphelios, you're going to need to be getting into the face of this Renata, which just kind of sets up Rogue for a good team fight.
Yeah. And I always like when you see Renata that it forces Aphelios into taking the cleanse, essentially, for fear of killing your own team in the late game, and that's going to make Kalista feel a little bit more comfortable. There's not going to be a ghost, there's not going to be a heal, so that much more opportunity for the Kalista to really leverage her early game strength. I like the Blitzcrank from Labrov, personally. Like the pick, like what it brings, but I don't think that that's going to...
on us.
Yeah, him personally on the Blitzcrank, fantastic. But of course, I don't think it's going to make this early lane matchup any easier if he's not instantly landing hooks right off the bat. Though the bans, you can see the focus is still limiting what Adam can kind of provide, as we do now have the Hwei locked in as well. So Darius taken off forward, the jungle pool now being limited, as the Jarvan has been taken off.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised to see the Jarvan taken away, because I think you still got options here for Rogue, right? You can go towards something like the Sejuani, and you can still go for even something like the Maokai if you really want to for Markoon. There's a lot of picks that we've seen coming through, and that jungle role is quite flexible at the moment, so limiting the Jarvan seems bizarre to me, and then even Volibear is starting to rise up priority in that jungle, but also in that top lane pool as well. So I still think you're more than likely going to see BDS try and take away the Sejuani here for themselves for a Sheo to try and set up for that team fight, but I'm kind of curious to see what Rogue have in their back pockets.
Yeah, it's an interesting draft thus far. Jungle pool hasn't been pinched too much. Really just the Vi, you could argue the Jarvan as well. Volibear we've mostly seen as a top laner, but you highlighted that it can obviously be played as a jungler, can still be pretty effective. Rel now going to get taken away too. What do BDS want to give for Sheo? Obviously not a guy known to really prioritize the more carry options, usually a bit more about utility. Maokai's still up.
I think it'd be the Sejuani. I think you take Sej here. But the only thing you have to be worried about, okay, they're going to take the Maokai. I was going to say, the only thing you have to be worried about is like Markoon going towards something like a Xin Zhao, because you've got the push in bot lane guaranteed, essentially with the range matchup there, so you can try and invade on towards a bottom side to Sheo, and I think that would be the idea here.
I'm a little bit concerned for the side of BDS and what this early game is going to look like, specifically around the bottom side of the map, because you kind of expect Rogue to get push, and now they have a winning jungle matchup as well, so Sheo's obviously a very creative player, known for these kind of more crazy pathings in early game. Cheeses sometimes, but you're going to have to get really creative because the enemy composition so far is just looking much more powerful in the early game. Taliyah, of course, versus Hwei, much closer than the bottom lane matchup, but and also Adam's got some crazy counter pick here for top side. I'm concerned about how BDS play out the early game.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be easy for Rogue to just say, hey, Xin Zhao, start your bot side, make sure that then you're able to invade onto blue off of that first rotation. So I'm curious how Sheo wants to try and start this one out, because I think you're going to be very quickly under pressure coming through. Maybe they end up trying to go for some sort of very early play towards like, hey, we've got a Blitzcrank and a Maokai. Let's see if we can try and go for some sort of invade in the early stages. But and you've got the Taliyah at least that can provide some upfront damage across that. But it does feel a little bit difficult for BDS just to manage these early stages of the game where you're going to be under a lot of pressure in the jungle.
Yeah, will certainly be tricky. See, of course, how it works out for them. And for Rogue, again, the blueprint is there. Early game, you've got a Kalista. This time, hopefully, will not be solo killed in isolation in the 1v1. I feel like all of Rogue are just trying to forget the last 2 days and focus up. We've heard that scrims have been a bit better for the team. want to see the Scrim Rogue appear on stage today. BDS sure as hell gonna have something to say about that as we get into our first game of the day.
Already, we can see as we get into this, bit of an unusual start for Rogue. Okay, we're going to go into a pause immediately.
I thought you were going to say all their skins are blue, and I was like, team bonding in the chroma department.
On the blue side.
Crucial. Yeah. Yes.
And they're Rogue.
Focus, strong brand identity. You're like, what's going wrong in the coaching? You're just backstage. They're like, brand identity.
Look, I feel like our team is missing marketing. Just bring this.
Guys, we're fine with the O2, but we're not all wearing blue skins at the same time on the Rift, okay? I didn't write those brand guidelines so you could ignore them. Anyway, have a break, have a Kit Kat. We'll figure out what's going on. We'll keep you updated as we get more information from our competitive operations team as to what's the issue on stage.
Did everyone bring a pillow?
Yes, good question.
Yeah.
All right, it was just a small audio setting adjustment. Everyone already had their pillows. Do not be concerned. Of course, shout out to Secret Lab. Those pillows are so good, they are worth pausing a game over. We learned. Courtesy of Targamas. Thank you for that, Target. All right, going back in. And the thing is, we've talked a lot about Rogue, right? And it's not that BDS are above criticism for their start of the season. I just think that for Rogue, because we're seeing so many of the same issues manifest, we really want to see change at a much higher rate. That is kind of the expectation for the lineup overall. Whereas BDS still need to improve, still need to show us more, but it's easier to believe that they've got what it takes. That said, Adam, slice and dice start, good patience. We've got a lane swap to kick things off. Do Rogue want to keep this is the question. I like the creative level 1. Already giving a decent advantage. Adam starting E level 1 is bad.
Yeah, I think a lot of this was more to see if they could try and get in onto Sheo and spot out where he is, right? Like, what is going to be his plan for going through his jungle? Because, again, I think you do want to start on the bottom side here for Rogue. Like, get this red, immediately try and look for an invade off of your bot side push and see if you can get Sheo out of that side of the jungle. I imagine Sheo will probably just go Raptors into some sort of bot side to try and match this, but it does just mean that you're going to need some sort of help to come through, and at least with Ice and Labrov already going to be able to start the lane push, maybe they can try and dissuade a little bit of that aggression in towards Sheo in the jungle.
Definitely an option. Of course, Markoon is living on a ward right now. He's going to look back at this and maybe kick himself just a tiny bit. Not sure if they spotted that particular piece of vision, but now he's gone into Fog of War. They feel comfortable knowing he's gone topside. He's not doing any clever double backs here, so BDS, good information for at least the early game pathing of the Zhao. Very important given how lethal those early ganks can be. And for now, bot lane slowly looks like it's going to be pushing in the favor of Rogue, expecting them to get level 2 first. And Finn, unsurprisingly, having a great time against the E-start Renekton. There's no stun there. There's no Q for the healing, so level 1 will at least favor him.
Yeah, it's a good matchup regardless for Finn. Also, now the fact that Sheo's been spotted on this ward is going to give a lot of information to Markoon that maybe they want to try and actually go for something on this top side a little bit earlier than expected. But realistically, I think he's more than just going to go towards his wolves after this and enter back into that bot side. And again, nice warding on both sides, right? You end up with that ward that spots out where Markoon's going, so Sheo knows he doesn't have to be worried about any sort of invade shenanigans on the early stages of the game. And as well, the fact that Sheo gets spotted means that BDS are Rogue are well aware of where Sheo is starting on the map.
Yep. And now you see Maokai position bottom side to cover if a dive does come through. Multiple waves now crashing into the bottom lane tower of BDS. Could have been a dive setup. Probably would have been a tough one to pull off, but the window of opportunity was there from Rogue. Markoon now walking across the ward, and timing here from Sheo is very good. Able to take that blue uncontested. Markoon wandering in now. Will get spotted by the Sapling, and Sheo had the necessary information to essentially safely clear his jungle, which was not a guaranteed thing, to be clear. And even now, his bot lane does not have priority, so the fact that he's able to sneak that blue buff away is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, I like the decision-making here from Sheo, right? So he does the blue first, so then if an invade comes through, he's able to fall back deeper into his jungle towards his wolves, and make sure that then he buys more time for his bot lane to clear out that bot wave. And you can see there, Markoon wants to try and go for the Gromp, but because you've already got that push in bot side, it makes him way more difficult to stay longer in this bot side jungle. So easy enough, Sheo's able to pick up blue, back to his wolves, and then able to pick up his Gromp now without Markoon really being able to stick around. So it's just wasted time by the Xin Zhao.
Yeah, putting himself behind a little bit, and big credit to Sheo again, finding that window of opportunity, pathing in such a way that he doesn't leave himself more vulnerable than necessary. We're now beginning to proxy waves, of course, knowing that Xin is on the bottom side of the map, frees him up to play, you know, just a little solo queue psycho classic, just move past, take the next minion wave, and he's no longer a level 1 Renekton, you know? He's got cold to me, there's 2 points there, happy to just sit there and tank minion aggro.
And I think at this stage, it's going to be a case of, well, how do we get to see Rogue open up the game? Because, for Rogue, I think a lot of it is going to be Markoon again trying to play off of, hey, mid push and bot side push and making sure you're all fine and dandy. And how do BDS respond to this? And I think a lot of that is going to be a case of, can Labrov start to roam around the map? Now, it is going to be tough, obviously. You're in a matchup where you're getting shoved in a lot. But if you can use, like, these moments, right, where he's like, I don't really have to back here. I'm full mana, full health. Okay, cool. Let me see if I can disrupt push on mid for Larssen. Maybe interrupt his back timer, burn a summoner spell, make things easier for Sheo on getting control mid. And then in a minute's time, or just over, when we hit level 6, we can immediately start to put that pressure onto bot lane.
And Labrov is already roaming up, of course. First back coming in for BDS, the wave bouncing off their side, crashing into the side of Rogue. As we've now reset, Ice will be there to pick that up, and it's not really a position where Markoon is ready to dive bottom side on this wave, so Kalista will back later. We'll probably have a better purchase, but Ice gets to sit comfortably, gets to farm up here. And on the top side, just continuing to see a bit of trading back and forth. Sheo taking this window of opportunity. Seeing so many members of Rogue on the bottom side to start up the objective. Larssen level 6, but low on mana. Flick back is good. Nuke doesn't really have a lot of damage to follow up, however, so Labrov stands there menacingly. Might be able to help Nuke push out, but they're in this awkward position where Nuke doesn't have enough mana. And so the play isn't really effective at getting that wave in.
Yeah, Nuke didn't have enough mana for the Unraveled Earth, so when they went for the flick back, that was kind of it. Not enough damage to finish off, so the Ignite kind of wasted there, and you're still in this kind of no man's land where no one really feels comfortable enough to push up. Larssen trying to get the reset, Nuke just trying to stop him, and it will mean that Rogue, at least with the control over that bot side, will be able to turn that into the Dragon, just with Labrov using that time instead, trying to play around mid lane.
So at the end of the day, we only see really a single grub taken, maybe just for a little bit of XP, just a tiny bit of gold to Sheo. Doesn't want to commit for too many. But Rogue are going to grab Mountain Drake, which, given that they kind of have the stronger, you would expect early to mid game composition, is good if they just continue to stack. Wow, I just put an R in there, man. Just I'm just mixing up the letters today.
Which
Stack
Magic the Gathering card is that one?
Look, oh, you haven't learned about stacks yet. Shout out to all my MTG stacks players. Those are the bad people, Rob. We don't talk to those people. I'll explain that concept later. It's kind of like the Poppy W of Magic the Gathering players.
Why do I feel like your son that's coming along is like, don't talk to those people. Those are the bad people. Come with us.
Don't ignore my Google history search. That's all I'll say. Regardless, BDS now level 6 on the bottom side. Labrov ready with a good angle on the hook here. Isn't going to connect, and all that pressure is just going to kind of fizzle. But I think BDS have navigated this early game super well. You kind of would expect Rogue to have a bit of a bigger lead based on some of the lanes that they've been able to get, but good back timing from Ice, good basic kind of wave control there, and Rogue really haven't been able to punish. And you know, you kind of want the Xin to do stuff pre-6. You know, post-6 obviously still good, don't get me wrong, but Markoon just has not been able to find the angles into these lanes.
No, it's definitely difficult, and I think a lot of it is, hey, we tried to make that play on bot side, but because that good ward that spotted out exactly what Markoon was up to, made it difficult for him to really find that timing window, and Sheo responding accordingly. I do think there are more opportunities for you to try and do something on this bottom side. It's just that they haven't really found this energy on Comp and Zoelys' pushes to try and make that play happen, especially now that Nuke has a significant amount of control over the mid lane. He's just been shoving in consistently, making it hard for Larssen to try and follow up on that.
Adam, though, gets a nice shove in, grabs a plate. Finn forced to reset the wave. If he can cancel the back here, very good, as he's been able to reset and Adam has not. Until Adam can spend that money, his gold lead is entirely fake, and Finn is actually the one in that advantageous state. Sheo going to, meantime, just try to finish off another grub or two, and Labrov, here we go. Big hook. Not going to connect. Flick does connect, but again, we are in the early game Taliyah stage. Can she half health you? Absolutely. Can she 100 to 0 you? Hell no.
It does put Larssen in an uncomfortable position, though, because now he can't really step up to aggress in the wave, because, you know, one flick back could cause major issues from where he does actually go down. So instead, now you open up Nuke to go, hey, maybe you can try and put some pressure on towards the bottom side. Very, very low on mana, though, because this is just wave clear galore, essentially, between these two champions. But if he's able to get this advantage and maybe finds a quick reset, could look to try and use that ult bot, especially as Comp and Zoelys want to, again, be pushing in this bot lane. Otherwise, Ice kind of gets to do what he's doing at the moment, which is just farm up neatly. I mean, he's even got a turret play for himself, which is super nice for him.
Finn doing what he can to just hold on here. Obviously, Renekton, pretty easy for him to just constantly fight for push here. Now that Catalyst is there, Been not going to have nearly as many mana problems. You highlighted it already, Rob, mana problems. The good thing about Hwei in these kind of control mage v control mage matchups, if it's just going to be this wave clear battle, is you have access to the WE, the Stirring Lights, which gives you mana back, which feels like...
name.
I didn't. It's next to me open on the Google. I'm not going to lie to you. I forget the names every time for Hwei. I will eventually memorize them.
I mean, there's
all.
like 10 of them. So
but thank you for the fake credit. You could have just... I could have rolled with it, but I'm not here to... You know, I don't want to be inauthentic to the people. Yeah. I know many ability names. The Hwei ones, I forget. I know Severing Bolt, and then the rest of them. That's really all you need.
Your hair color is fake, but your hair integrity is not.
Wow, you just gave me a life motto. This is my moral code I'm going to live by. Just permanently dye my hair. All right. And yeah, so... But now finally the control mages have backed Rob. And maybe now with the Lost Chapter, probably on both sides, as Larssen will most likely also buy one. Maybe there will be enough kill pressure for somebody to die somewhere on the map.
I wouldn't hold my breath. The fact that like even BDS managed to get all 3 Void Grubs is kind of absurd. Like you'd kind of think, hey,
he kind of just meandered up there.
Yeah.
Got one. Like came back later. Like, all right, I guess.
Oh, they're still
take
here.
Another one.
Oh, okay. I'm feeling. Yeah. I mean, but I could end up with a little bit more as well. I think Rogue are now starting to set up for this play on the bottom side. Dragon isn't 45, so it's a little bit early. I'd rather see them like pressure this wave and then be able to set up a dive in the next little bit. But Sheo
really overstaying his welcome. Didn't really have enough information on the map as to where everyone is, but the Blast Gun going to take him out in Rogue. Don't want to commit any more resources to follow up. Markoon debating. We just watched a man have just an internal existential crisis in the enemy jungle right there. He did not know if he wanted to go for that.
I think it's the right call though. Back it up. You know that 15 seconds until Dragon. You secure that.
Markoon, pull back, flick back, good damage again. Now finally able to burn through the Ignite. Is it enough? First blood? No. Okay. Sorry, audience. Sorry, that's my bad. You're not supposed to call it till it happens. It's like the big thing. Yeah. And I like that Rogue grouped. I like that they looked to punish and, you know, did technically catch Sheo. Just maybe skipping. Should have waited to see people on waves, I think, before he pushed up there for vision. But doesn't go down. Rue connects. And Nuke is forced to flash out of safety. Small advantage. Hook is good. Sheo is there. None of the damages, however, which is a bit of a problem. I don't know about that one. Sheo now probably going to die here. A bit of a miscalculation from the side of BDS as to who was stronger in that equation.
Look, there's a couple of people in that fight that need to take a look at Aim Trainer, but they do manage to get the hit. They managed to get someone down, and now Rogue's still here. Labrov maybe fishing for a hook.
Yeah, we're not Valorant, but I will say Aim Labs, you know? It's time. Take a look. Doesn't help you with League of Legends.
There is a League of Legends one, apparently. Which is like,
is it a terrible Flash game? Because all the League of Legends aim trainers are just really bad Flash games with like ripped assets from the client. I feel like I'm playing like a bootleg League of Legends mobile game. You know what I mean?
Look, maybe it is. I don't
also,
know.
yeah, maybe.
I haven't played it myself.
All right, yeah.
But yeah, this was a little bit messy. Like, so you end up with Zoelys getting knocked back. He immediately ults because he thinks he's going to be pulled forward, which means that everyone kind of dodges that. But you just, for BDS, they're outnumbered, right? You still got Taliyah in the mid lane. She's not really able to come into this fight. Rogue already controlled River. Ice hadn't started to move. So if you had people there, maybe that could have been your moment. But instead, 2 dragons for Rogue.
And you just burned all your cooldowns.
Yeah.
Hook is gone. You know, Unraveled Earth, the Flick is gone. Seismic Show. I do know that name. Yeah, and there's just no damage left in the tank. And that's the thing. Maokai provides a lot of things. Damage is absolutely not one of them. And Blitzcrank has some upfront burst at level 6 with Ignite. But if you're not going to land all those cooldowns on a single target, I think it's just, yeah, pretty big miscalculation from the side of BDS. Good on Rogue to punish, but now we're in a situation where, while the gold is dead even, it's 2 Drakes to Rogue. A longer game I still think will be hard for them, even with something like a Soul. Pullback is there on a Larssen this time. Good, though. Fear to try to disengage, and the coordination not...
Well, that's the thing. Like, Labrov got the hook, but Nuke had just used all of his spells on the wave. So you literally get AQ. So it's a little bit of a warning shot, essentially, but you're not too worried as Larssen, so he just walks away. 6 Void Grubs is kind of the only thing BDS really have going for them at the moment. They could, again, with if they can scale, Ice will get into a position where he's comfortable. But for Rogue, even though it's not too much happening, they do have the 2 dragons, which will set them up nicely to try and find these fights whereas they're coming online. So for BDS, you kind of needed to find a way to slow down the pace of this game, at least from dragon stacking perspective. It just hasn't quite happened.
And I will say, in a game this where neither team is really able to push their advantage in a really significant way, a pick like Aphelios. I mean, I feel like we're in the Fast and Furious 11 right now. I don't know about you. We are breakneck speed.
I mean,
they've already
this
gone
like,
to space. They need to, like, what, drift around the rings.
I was
going to
say, it's like Final Fantasy 16, or Final Fantasy Fast and Furious 16, where they've just decided to
there's actually a crossover.
It's
Rob
a new dimension.
spoiled it, but that's
it's
the
a crossover
plot.
with Cars, where it's just the Disney or Pixar movie, which is just everyone is a car, so everyone is now fast and slightly furious.
But Rob, good news. Aside from our Cars Final Fantasy Fast and Furious crossovers, that a fight is happening. A TP is breaking out. Maokai out going in. Markoon on his lonesome, but has the ulti if he needs it to create a bit more space. Waiting a little bit too long, though, and just gets popped. Quick flick back there. Rogue now on the chase. An excellent knockup. Ice firing back with an ult of his own. Zoelys in the midst of everybody. Calm still holding on thanks to the bailout. BDS a bit overconfident. Gift rafting the Herald, and there you go, Rogue. Happy to pick it up.
Everyone grouped perfectly for Zoelys' ultimate. The hostile takeover just absolutely obliterating BDS as they all turn on each other, and even the bailout for comp, perfect in the end. So nicely done by Rogue to turn that one around.
Yeah, credit to them. And BDS, I think overestimating. And in those close exchanges, this is really where the Kalista and Renata together are just going to do so much work, right? The bailout, obviously, stacking up those spears. Kalista already such a hard target to lock down. We'll see kind of what went wrong here for BDS.
Yeah, I mean, as they set up here, they try to turn on to Markoon, which is essentially the tank, right, because of the ultimate. So yes, you get the lock up here, they all end up turning on to him. You get a good ultimate coming through from Finn, which kind of disrupts a little bit, but look at the hostile takeover.
Oh, it's so
Every
good.
single person, apart from Nuke, is locked up. They're all dealing a ton of damage themselves. Sets up beautifully then for Larssen to get that massive AoE damage off as well. Everyone's getting hit by the passive. It's just perfect there.
Yeah, and you can see ecstatic faces on the side of Rogue coach chat. It makes sense. It's a rough couple first 2 days, right? But that fight looked good. And I think in this case, you know, BDS throw the ult out one way, get the pick that they want, but then overgroup a little bit in the context of the fight, because while the upfront burst damage of Taliyah is there, generally she wants to play fights after that slower. Yeah. You know, it's about consistent threaded volleys, whereas Larssen just gets to smash all of his buttons on the grouped up members of BDS and just does so much work in that fight, despite not really having a jungler for the vast majority of it.
And this is where, again, it's like the team fighting from BDS, which, if we look at last bit, was kind of their big highlight point, falling apart a little bit there, right? And also even the Dragon stacking, having that opportunity. And look, they are in a composition that doesn't exactly threaten in the early stage, so a little bit harder to contest that. But I think that's what BDS were always good at, is finding ways to draw people around the map, trade off if they weren't able to go for these objectives. But in this one, it's been pretty lackluster, to be honest, and Rogue are kind of just waltzing their way into a couple of these opportunities where BDS are handing them the team fights.
Yeah, if we look at almost all of the kills that have taken place in the game, it has been BDS initiating some sort of play and Rogue punishing. Right? Rogue have made other attempts, they just haven't resulted in greater advantages quite yet. Larssen now mounting up. Straight up to the back of Shelly here. BDS with enough members in the area, they're going to have all 5 here in a second. Rogue maybe hoping to catch Nuke on the transition over. He does get hit by the wind, becomes lightning, but it's just the crash and nothing else. Rogue laser focused on the Dragon. Ice, great guns for a fight. BDS has to be careful about over-grouping. The fallout damage could be very real, but Labrov just gets popped. Easy pickings. Markoon's ult creating a lot of space here, and BDS just at a man disadvantage. Sheo still up. I feel like they're hoping for the smite steal at this point, because there's not really a lot else to play for, and those Rogue gratuitously overstep.
Zoelys still has his ultimate as well, so if you try and come through this choke point, you're just setting up perfectly for that. And again, I mean, they end up focusing the Renata, who just gets yoinked back up with the Kalista in these fights. Just the target selection pretty off from BDS.
Yeah, looking at it, I mean, you don't really have priority in that area. I guess they feel like they really need to contest that. They're walking into a choke point against the Hwei, against a Xin, who's going to be so difficult to get damage down on, right? Taliyah and the Aphelios together, really bad at hurting the Xin, right? You're always operating at such a massive distance, and you can't really walk up either to finish the kill because there's a Gragas there to body block. Zoelys is threatening with the ult, as you highlighted. I feel like now that BDS are at this deficit, with 3 Drakes on the side of Rogue, it's feeling like such a hard puzzle for them to solve in the fights to come.
I will say, though, it's a very rare game state that we get to. The 3 dragons are taken, and there's been 1 tower taken. it's been, or not even a tower taken, what am I saying? It's just like there's just been nothing there that really like forces them out of position. But the problem is that, like, yes, BDS can now try and trade for some of these objectives, but like, if you lose top tier 1 for Dragon Soul, do you really care as Rogue? Like, your options for BDS to actually try and counteract this without just fighting are pretty much null and void.
Yeah, this is difficult. And yeah. Obviously, if BDS can maybe catch Rogue in skipping steps and setup, because we've seen that a lot recently. I think that's probably their best avenue to kind of come back in this game. And Ice is still scaling. 1.5 items going to feel pretty good. Once you get to 3, obviously, really still going to be that terror in the fights. And it's not like Rogue aren't also grouping up. They're still very vulnerable to an Inferno multi from the Aphelios. But right now, Rogue running the map.
But that's the opposite side, right? Is that like Rogue do actually try to end this game before that scaling comes on. So even though it's like a 2.5k gold lead, you are just going to eventually run out of steam here. So for Rogue, this is where you got to go, we actually have to put pressure on the map. We have to make sure these things are operating. And I mean, a Rift Herald going into mid lane that doesn't net you anything isn't the best, right? So I think this is where I want to see, like, okay, Larssen, push out this mid wave and immediately group on top.
Well, BDS, they want a tower, Rob. They're determined to make this happen. And remember, 6 grubbies buffing them up, so easy pickup. Good use of the Weaver's Wall.
Yeah, it's so strange because, like, hang on. So basically, the way you kind of want to operate this, right, is that essentially if you are Rogue, you want to have your Kalista in the mid lane, because essentially you can contest mid push and immediately start to group with Larssen up towards his top side, right? Yeah. But because they end up leaving the Kalista in that top side, it makes it incredibly difficult to actually threaten the top wave because Nuke is there. Nuke always has the Weaver's Wall to try and come down, although he is like zoning Larssen off the wave. And in theory, you can say like, hey, you could try and do the exact same thing where you push out mid with the Hwei and then try and lean up. But Hwei is significantly more vulnerable. You also don't have Zoelys who's going to be able to threaten with them as well, because Zoelys is already pictured up in this top side. So now they've kind of swapped into a position that is a bit more favorable for them. But because they'd already lost that mid tower now, it makes it easier for Labrov to start to establish vision on this top end. You can already see Sheo starting to hover on this top side as well to support Nuke. And it just feels like you have members of Rogue who have the idea of what they're supposed to do, but as you say, like skipping steps, where it's Markoon isn't with Larssen to help him protect midwave. Zoelys isn't working with Markoon to say, hey, we've established vision to make sure we know where Labrov is. We know that Ice is going to shove in, or even where the hell this Taliyah is. There's just been a lot of small errors that BDS are just utilizing to shut down Rogue when they want to try and make a play.
Yep. Rogue, though, going back to basics here. Get a little bit of mid-prio, force Ice to catch the wave, move in, lay down to vision. But it's pretty shallow vision. Ice, not really contested there, is just allowed to walk up and farm it. So Rogue only get 10, 15 seconds where they can really comfortably know they have a man advantage to lay down vision. And so the sole result of 3 members grouping on mid is that single ward right next to the Raptors, which is not ideal. I feel like they would like to get more. But it is obviously tricky against an Aphelios with Infernum. He just clears the wave really quickly, and unless you're willing to dive on top of him with partial information, which was the situation for Rogue, it's kind of hard to stop that.
And this is why I think it's difficult to try and play Kalista if you're not able to play aggressive with her or understanding how to force fights. Because if you end up with like a Varus in the mid lane, right? Varus is very easy to go, hey, I will one-shot this wave as poke Varus, and then I unlock Zoelys to go and roam and make threats and work with Markoon to outnumber people on the map. But if you're not able to say, hey, we get Markoon to push mid with comp and Zoelys, and then we invade onto your jungle to make it more difficult for you to actually like contest us, and we're forcing fights into your face, or you're losing ground and then you're losing towers, I think that's where the issue is. And right now, Rogue feel a little bit lost. Now they're going to try and set up for this dragon, but again, it's like Markoon and Zoelys need to be threatening with comp, as they're kind of have to in here, onto the mid wave, so comp can push in and you force Ice or whoever's trying to defend it off the tower. But now they have got mid push, they have got control over the river a little bit, but Adam on a good flank opportunity, Ice behind his tanks. BDS are no pushovers in this fight.
Larssen just creating a little bit of space, poking out, but that comes the Maokai ultimate. Ice for now, just allowed to free fire on the back side. Weaver's Wall coming across. Comp still autoing the objective though. Markoon needs to get in there with the smite and secure this, but it's the steal coming in from the side of BDS to stop the soul from going through. Rogue burned so many resources in the exchange, and now just trying to run mid. Bot lane tower has dropped, and credit to BDS to find a way into that fight. They played through bot lane. Adam cleared out mid, was able to just poke his head in without really over-committing on the flank, and the Weaver's Wall from Nuke, I gotta say, not the bloodiest game, not the most impressive game maybe mechanically, but both Weaver's Walls from Nuke that we've seen in the last 2 exchanges have essentially just gotten BDS free objectives.
Yeah, and it is unfortunate that the steal went across and they weren't able to follow up, but even then I still think you could have just, as Rogue, because BDS were fully focused on the bottom side of the map, like transition to mid lane, like start to push them off, try and look for a tower off of the next wave that had just approached. So I think Rogue are kind of like overly focused on the one thing that they can do, rather than trying to pivot when they see BDS in an area as well.
There's absolutely a world where they, because Rogue had so many members on the bottom side of the map, and they could have been really relatively confident of that given the vision that Rogue or the BDS had placed down, you just take mid tier 1. Adam's not walking up to the wave when you got 4 people there. It's, you know, you have that access to just take that trade. Instead, they kind of take the small risk. Felt like they had better access, but ultimately you're right. I mean, BDS win the 50-50 is essentially what it comes down to, where that could have been a much more favorable trade for Rogue.
Yeah, and even now, right, it's like you've got 2 items coming in for Ice. He's going to be totally fine. BDS, again, just playing it slow. They're under no real threat to try and push forward here because they do just have the scaling. I mean, Labrov fishes, but may have actually taken too far.
Unraveled Earth buys a bit more space. Zoelys going in, nice handshake. Sheo maybe not the priority target, but they do enough damage to burn him down. Ice, good damage over the wall. Finn now coming in as well. Comp now on a rampage. Ice finding the long-range route. Markoon no longer under the protection of the ultimate. Labrov going forward, trying to find the hook, forcing the flash out from Larssen. Messy exchange. Jungler traded for support. You'd say that favors Rogue, but they get the flash from Larssen. Key summoner in the fight to come.
I mean, it favors Rogue if they get something, but people are too low. No mana on Larssen. No opportunity to really push in for a tower. The waves aren't in their favor. It's just a pick for a pick, and at the end of the day, it's not going to really amount to anything. In fact, it's BDS who are getting positioning on the map for this.
Larssen walking up. Adam knows that he has no flash, but doesn't quite know where the enemy team is, so we'll just have to accept that this wave is going to get cleared out. Larssen won't be able to push it much further than this, but with Finn coming up to support, I think they're trying to catch Adam. Being a little bit too greedy to overstay. Creep there if he wants to double dash through. I don't think he gets the edge of it. He doesn't have another dash. Adam now forced to use the ultimate. Ignite ticking. Running for his life. Spiraling despair. Severing Bolt going to come in a second here, but the dash is off cooldown. He'll just walk away. Dangerously close to death. Adam taking an unnecessary risk, but because he lives, Rogue are pretty far behind on tempo. They have to push out this topside wave and back. Larssen needs mana.
Finn, though, might be in a bit of a dangerous position. Labrov will spot him. You're going to get the reset from Larssen, but BDS don't really want to try and chunk this in. So again, I think it's just going to be waiting for 2 minutes. Rogue not really feeling comfortable to over-aggress in the map. Again, they're not trying to play around this Kalista in the manner that they really should. Like 4-0-2 on a Kalista, you should feel pretty confident to say, hey, look, we're going to look for skirmishes, we're going to look for fights, you're going to be a decent spot, but they just haven't been comfortable trying to force them. And now BDS are going, cool. We're just going to continue to clear waves. We're getting nearly 3 items onto Nuke. We're getting nearly 3 items onto Ice. Sheo's starting to look pretty damn tanky as well.
BDS
and they feel confident to just start Baron.
Good vision control. Blue Trinket comes out. BDS probably just back off here. Severing Bolt going down. All right, Rogue now see the Baron resetting. Labrov going in. This time the hook goes straight into Markoon. Markoon can just ulti, gets himself a little bit more space. That's one now taken down. Ice, decent ulti under the backside, taking about 50% of Zoelys' life. But Labrov consistently trying to be that playmaker there, but there's very few good targets to hook. Well, there's 3, but sadly, they're always behind the Zhao and the Gragas.
Yeah, I mean, Markoon is just so good against Ice, especially as he's already pointed out, Drakos. It's like the ult just makes it so difficult for him to really do anything. So he tosses an ult into the backline, but doesn't really dissuade them a huge amount. And a bit of a whoopsie from BDS. Again, though, it's kind of just a pick like Rogue have reset. They're not going, hey, we're going to go and like hard shove mid and use the numbers advantage or do anything with it. It's just kind of like a, hey, nice job, lads. Come back tomorrow? Yeah? Great. All right. See you same time.
All right. I'm not a superstitious guy, and you know this, Dagda.
You're just a little stitious.
Just a little stitious. Regular amount of stitious. But when you started talking about Cars X Final Fantasy X The Fast and Furious, they did start killing each other. So do you have any more thoughts about that particular collab / potential streetwear drop?
Yeah.
Because all I'll say is it sounds hard. I don't know what that clothing line looks like. But
I just need to know what Vin Diesel looks like as Lightning McQueen, you know? Like, how do you get Vin Diesel's face on a car? And it seems they're kind of happy working.
The natural human inclination, and one to wonder if you can keep your job while also talking about what Vin Diesel's face would look like as a car. Anyway, both sides are grouping.
Do you ever wonder how you got here?
Every day. Every day. Every day, Rob. And Rogue also wondering how they got here in this situation. But the good news is they have Kalista, situation being barren. Markoon, they're doing good damage. BDS need to bully their way in. Finn has a great flank. This is good.
They know he's there, though. They should definitely know he's there.
Oh, rinse and repeat. They're just walling off half the team, but the pullback is good. BDS so far winning this fight. Ice now trying to get away. He doesn't have great guns for the fight. Finn going golden, buys a moment, gets a little bit more space. Zoelys on their tree, getting lower and lower. Labrov waiting over the wall, not doing a whole hell of a lot, but Ice finally swapping guns. Nuke now stepping forward, threaded volley to try to finish off Markoon. Flash forward, Nuke gets the kill. Labrov waiting. Where's that hook going to go? Right on the Finn. Oh, punch. Knock up into the sky. Finn running for his life. Flickback still managed to catch him. Ice on the chase. Rogue getting pushed away from the pin. It felt like a guaranteed thing. Now there's a TP on the midwave because Larssen just needs to get the hell out. And Zoelys has been left to die. He's flashing.
You should not have flashed.
Why did he flash that? He was dead.
He should not have flashed. No.
And Vin Diesel's face on a car does it again, folks. We found the key to getting them to fight. Just kidding.
Oh, you started talking about again that Larssen wants to fight.
Larsen's there.
It does work. It works.
But now the TP's got this is Psycho. Taliyah's on the way in. Larssen is very likely going to die here. Taliyah has so much movement speed. Yep. Now that's a slow. Larssen has to flash. Free summoner spell. Larssen just really wants to make sure they do not get this Baron. This is BDS's path back into the game.
Sheo? No, he's not going to try and go for it. Okay.
All right. And just like that, BDS are winning. I don't know how, but it happened.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. A huge amount of this just comes down to Rogue inactivity. And I think a lot of that play was Rogue kind of feeling like, hey, we need to do something because we're just being stalled out in this game and they're going to come back.
The thing is, they won the fight where they hard forced. And I thought that would have been the indication that they could do more, but it just doesn't feel like... I think Comp's just having a really hard time getting in when Nuke is in a decent position.
Yeah.
It's just, again, credit to Nuke. 2-0-4, not the most glamorous scoreline. It's good, but I feel like he's just been, outside of 1 or 2 instances, really, really solid this entire game.
And look, I don't know if we're going to get a replay of that fight because Felix got a bit far, but I don't know how Finn managed to get that flank. He's standing using his sweeper, and there's one ward that spots him, and no one's gone, hey, I wonder why we don't have vision on this ward anymore. It's like, and then you even see the control ward just get placed on top of it. I was like, this is fine. But BDS managed to turn around anyway. Now you got Markoon, he's in a lot of trouble.
Back onto Markoon. Most of his life now gone. Holding onto the ulti. That's Mikhail's gone. That felt a bit premature. Not going to have that for the next fight. Labrov still fishing and getting murdered by his AD carry, which for Ice has to feel pretty cathartic, because I'm going to tell you, in the laning matchup, Blitzcrank does not help a lot. So, bit of revenge. Slap him around.
Look, unfortunately for Rogue, they're just being outpaced here. And, okay, we are actually going to get the...
Okay.
But I want you to... So see this ward, all right? Watch him just lose his vision. And no one goes, why do we not have vision?
Must be a bug.
And then the pink ward goes on top of it. And no one goes, why is there randomly a pink ward here? There's nothing. No. And then he gets this. I was like, how does no one spot this the entire time?
And the better question is, how do BDS not win from that position? I guess they don't finish off Ice. Sheo's just standing back. Yeah. Both carries are just allowed to free hit. Comp finally goes in, but...
It's too late, yeah.
Well, that was just questionable. Maokai was right there. I'm not sure if he just thought that he did more damage. Hook from Labrov, obviously pretty straightforward. Wow.
Yeah, that was a moment.
Huh. Finn mind control, new technique, I guess. And then Zoelys flashes, which, bit of an oopsie.
It's you know when you're playing D&D and it's like,
goes back, someone dies.
The guy in heavy armor is like, I'm gonna do the sneak roll, and you're like, there's no way this is gonna go well.
Finn just hitting straight nat 20s. But so is Nuke, baby! 2-man knockup, Comp. Taking out Nuke will finally pop, courtesy of the Spiraling Despair. Finn's still going in, but he's gonna get stunned up by the lingering Unraveled Earth, and Adam, he's just going to town in the back line. This game was neck and neck. Rogue thought that they were pushing an advantage, albeit very slowly. All it took was that single Baron. BDS in full control. And they probably just end the game right here, 32 minutes in. Very odd game of League of Legends. But BDS, they take those. Sheo offers his life as sacrifice in penance for whatever we just watched. BDS win. Rogue coming in on an 0-3. Rough start for both these teams, but somebody had to win, and BDS coming out on top as the KDA plays come through, and Labrov's going to whip his final hook, but he will take out the Nexus.
That is one of the games of League of Legends of all time. And BDS managed to slow down at pace, at least enough, or at least Rogue doesn't do anything enough that BDS gets scale and they eventually take over, but yeah.
That's a... And look, I'm not going to tell you that there's a silver lining on the Rogue Cloud right now. I'll just say hearts out to the players, because obviously this is not the performance that they want to show on stage, and the fact that they're still seeing the same issues, I'm sure is really frustrating, and I hope that they can recover, kind of come into the next week with clear heads. For BDS, we've seen good from them this week, we've seen bad from them this week. There were some good signs here in the fact that they, Sheo, especially in the early game, I think got way more done in the jungle than he should have been able to do with a losing bot lane matchup, with a losing jungle matchup. So, some good signs from BDS. We heard from Striker earlier. We want to see them evolve more. I don't think this is the next stage of the evolution, but it was a win. At LEC on X, player of the game, Sheo, Nuke, Labrov, and as the bow comes through, we're going to head to a quick break. When we return, an interview with Adam.
Red Bull gives you wings.